Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to talk to you about settlement agreements. They used to be called compromise agreements. People often come to us because they've been offered them and they don't really know what it's for or why they have to come to a solicitor. So I just want to talk about some of the key aspects of a settlement agreement so that you understand what it is that you're being offered, why a solicitor has to be involved, etc. So a settlement agreement is effectively an employee waiving their rights and an employer offering a sum of money in return for waiving their employment rights. So in simple terms, you agree not to sue your employer in return for a sum of money, and you agree to all keep quiet about it. So these have been misconstrued, in my view, in the media as NDAs, these big scary things. But actually, a lot of the time, they're really helpful because it's very expensive for a lot of individuals to go to tribunal. So having the option of a settlement agreement where they remove the stress, they're able to settle all their claims and get a lump sum up front. You know, we're looking at up to 2 years at the moment to get a hearing in the tribunal. So a settlement agreement gives the opportunity for the individual to bring the matter to a close, but also gives them the opportunity to actually have that lump sum up front and to move on with their life and get another job. Whereas if you litigate and go to tribunal, you have obviously no guarantee that you're going to win, and you have to go all the way to tribunal in order to get an outcome, and then you'll have to wait then from thereafter to be paid. So there's loads of benefits of engaging in a settlement agreement, and there's loads of benefits from an employer's perspective. They don't have to have the risk of any claims against them. They also have peace of mind that that individual knows what their rights are post termination, and as an organisation they know exactly what the risks are moving forward because those individuals can't sue them for anything that arises out of their employment. So what's an actual settlement agreement? Well, it's a document that is emailed over to the individual ordinarily, and a solicitor has to sign it in order for it to be legally binding. And not only do they have to sign it, they have to fully advise the individual, and they have to be an independent solicitor. So they can't be the company's solicitor, it has to be someone independent. It's okay for the company to recommend a solicitor, but you have the right to choose your own solicitor, and the company will ordinarily contribute towards those fees. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky. So the fees are paid for by the employer, but only the contribution. So if you want to negotiate your settlement agreement and you actually want, loads more money, lots of terms changing, and that doesn't cover it, it won't always cover all of the legal fees. So you have to take a view if it's worth paying more in order to get more. Sometimes you can also negotiate those fees up from the employer. So again, that's an option, but you need to have that conversation at the outset with your solicitor. They should be transparent about costs, about what you have to pay, about what they have to pay, in terms of they being the employer, and actually making it really clear to you from the outset is really, really important. So when you do engage a solicitor, they will give you a client care letter that should set all of this out. And if they don't do that, then just ask them to clarify in writing exactly when and what you will have to pay, having regard for your circumstances. But do be mindful, if you're contacting a solicitor quite a lot and you want them to negotiate specific terms or get an increased amount, it's unlikely to be met under the contribution. A usual contribution is anything from $250 to $500 plus VAT, and that will ordinarily cover the solicitor reviewing and advising you on the current terms. Anything more than that, like I say, is usually cost more. So what are usual terms? So the obvious one is paying a sum of money, and that money is often paid tax-free. There's lots of rules around tax that are way outside the scope of this video, and actually sometimes outside the scope of my brain. And they are also claims that will be waived, so within the actual document. So what we mean by that is you can't then pursue your employer for unfair dismissal or redundancy payments, or anything that you think arises out of your employment has to be discussed with your solicitor at that time. If you think about it afterwards and you've already signed it, it's probably going to be too late. So that's really why you have to take advice, because you have to know what rights you're giving up for that money. And if you don't take advice, it's actually not a legally binding agreement. So employers will tell you this, but sometimes you're wondering, well, why do I have to pay for a solicitor? And that's why, because it's not that the employer are being difficult, that the employee has to take independent legal advice. Confidentiality and non-derogatory clauses are very common. Ordinarily, if you have restrictive covenants as well, so like post-termination, not being able to work for other businesses who are in competition, they might be reiterated within the settlement agreement. So just try and get a copy of your contract as well in case those are. It's really important that you comply with those. If you breach the settlement agreement by talking about your employer on the internet or doing anything that breaches any of the express terms, you could then end up having to repay some of those settlement monies. So be really careful if that's the case. Now, if you do have a settlement agreement, you'll be advised on every single clause, and it basically will depend on your specific circumstances. So this is not legal advice. This is just me just explaining what it is and how it works and just some of the basic principles of settlement agreements, just to help you guys to understand, because there's loads of them flying around at the moment and it's something that we literally do on a daily basis. So hopefully this has helped you to understand some of the key areas around settlement agreements. We do help individuals and employers with settlement agreements. We can draft them, we can advise on them. Get in touch. We do a free, no obligation conversation to start with, so send us anything over if you want to have a free chat with us. More than happy to help. My email address is here. And if you want to get in touch or you have any questions on what I've just discussed there, just drop us a comment below. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you again very soon. Bye. This is just